Welcome to my chemistry class. This is Teacher Atari. If this is your first time of coming to my channel, please do well to subscribe to this channel and as well go through my videos and you'll see an interesting and encouraging videos for you to study. So if you're preparing for JAMB, you're preparing for WAEC, this is your right destination. Please do well to share whenever you watch any of the video. Thank you for coming to this channel. So in today's topic, we'll be talking about salt, chemistry salt. So we are taught about a neutralization reaction, a reaction between an acid and a base. So in this now, we define salt as a substance or a compound that is formed when part or all of the ionizable hydrogen ion of an acid is being replaced by a metal or an ammonium ion. So in this aspect, we said these metals, let's use a very good example, sodium, let's use magnesium 2+, let's use potassium plus, or ammonium ion, So the hydrogen ion in an acid will be replaced by the presence of metal, so to give what is known as salt. So we have a reaction that involves an acid, let's use a monobasic acid reacting with a base. We said a reaction that involves an acid and a base is known as neutralization reaction. Neutralization reaction. So we can infer from the definition of a salt that the end product of a neutralization reaction gives birth to what is known as salt. So we said the end product of neutralization reaction gives salt and water at the end. So the state of this ACl and that of the base will determine the kind of salt that is produced at the end of the reaction. So from this point, this will take us to the types of salt in chemistry. We have 5 types of salt in this regard. Types of salt. So we have types. What are the types of salts? So due to the nature of the acid that is present in the reaction, we can classify salt according to 1. We have the normal salt. So 2, we have the acid salt, also known as acidic salt. So we have 3, we have the basic salt. The basic salt. So each of these salt will be explained vividly. So we have the double salt. So 5, we have the complex salt. So the complex salt. So what are normal salt? We said we defined salt before now that these are compounds that are formed when the ionizable hydrogen ion of an acid is being replaced by a metal. So in normal salt, the replaceable hydrogen ion in an acid is completely replaced by a metal. So a very good example, let's use a very good equation. Let's use a monobasic acid reacting with sodium hydroxide. So in this now, this is an acid, this is a base. That is to say, this is the replaceable hydrogen ion in an acid. So we have a metal known as sodium. So in this aspect, we have 1 sodium here, we have 1 hydrogen here. So since sodium is more electropositive, it's going to display this hydrogen from this chloride, from the chloride form. So in this now, this reaction, this sodium will display this to have, since they have 1,1, sodium will display hydrogen. So to attach to chlorine, this hydrogen will move down to this one to form H2O. That is to say, the sodium, we have 1 sodium, we have 1 hydrogen. Since this metal was able to replace complete replacement of hydrogen, this is known as normal salt. So with this now, we can define normal salt as that salt that is formed when all the ionizable hydrogen ion in an acid is completely replaced by a metal. So we use the metal in this regard. So in this aspect, we can infer that since there's a complete replacement of this hydrogen ion by metal, a normal salt is produced at the end. So what this will take us to the next step. What are acidic salt, or what are acidic salt? What are acidic salt? Acid salt are those salts that are formed when the ionizable hydrogen ion in an acid is partially replaced by metal or ammonium ion. That is to say, for this kind of salt to be formed, we have to have the state of the acid that is what? That is dibasic. It can be tribasic, so that one of the hydrogen ion will be partially replaced. That is to say, let's use a very good example. Let's use a dibasic acid. So when it reacts with sodium hydroxide as well, let's use sodium hydroxide. Okay, let's use a common alkalis too. So for this now, let's use this. Since here, how can we identify acidic salt? We have two hydrogen here. This is the metal. We have one metal here, one K. That is, one of the K is going to display one of these hydrogen. We are left with one hydrogen here. So if one of the K should display one of the hydrogen here, K will take one place of this hydrogen. One of the hydrogen is left. So we are left with KSO4 plus this one of the hydrogen we attach to this water to have what? The H2O. So the H2O. So the presence of this hydrogen in this compound gives an acidic characteristics. Give this acidic characteristics. So that is to say, this kind of salt changes blue litmus paper red. So in this aspect, the presence of this hydrogen ion, this replaceable hydrogen ion in this salt, makes it an acidic salt. So this kind of reaction, since it's having a replaceable hydrogen ion, it can as well undergo a chemical reaction with a base, with, let's use potassium hydroxide as well. So that here we have one hydrogen, here we have one metal, which is a K. So this K can display this hydrogen. So K plus K, we are going to have K2SO4 plus one of this hydrogen will move down to this OH to form the water molecule. So this kind of salt in this regard is known as what? Normal salt. Normal salt is formed at the end. So what are you trying to say now? Whenever you see hydrogen in a given compound, in a given neutralization reaction, we can infer that such reaction is an acidic salt. But there are some exceptions. When we have this, when a weak acid reacts with a base. Let's use a very good example. Let's have this compound. Let's have sodium hydrogen triazocarbonate. So in this now, you can, if you should see this kind of equation as a non-chemist, you can infer from the explanation that this kind of compound contains this ionizable hydrogen ion. We can say this kind of salt is an acidic salt by merely looking at this compound. But from the formation of this, on this hydrolysis of this compound is formed by a strong base plus a weak acid. So when a strong base reacts with a weak acid, we are going to have this compound. So when this compound hydrolyzes, when it ionizes, let's say sodium hydrogen triazocarbonate 4, when it ionizes, we are going to have sodium plus HCO negative. So this is a weak acid. If this weak acid is dissolved in water, if we should dissolve this in water, we can know the characteristics of this salt by merely from this equation, that this is going to have the weak acid reacting with what? Giving out OH negative. So this is the exception, that this this aspect, there's a discrepancy in this aspect that this kind of salt here, since a strong acid reacts with a weak base, is going to give, most times, it's going to give birth to, going to produce what is known as a basic salt. So in this, now how did you conclude that this salt is a basic salt? Because when when it is dissolved in water, it gives hydroxy group, which is the basic characteristics. So in this aspect, this kind of salt is known as salt. It has a basic characteristics. Basic characteristics. So this salt can be concluded that this salt is known as basic salt, not acidic salt. Acidic salt. From this explanation, one can infer that when a strong acid reacts with a weak base, there's a high probability of the product being a what? A basic salt. So take notes, students, take notes, because there are some questions that comes this way. Which of the following are example of acidic salt? They will list all the salt, but when you notice that the salt in the option is formed by a strong base and a weak acid, there's a high probability of the salt being a basic salt. So we're going to move to the next option. Let's talk about what are basic salt. The name basic, it means there will be OH family in the group. So what are basic salt? Basic salt are those compounds, are those salts that are formed when the acid is insufficient. The acid needed to complete neutralization of the base is insufficient. That is to say, let's use a very good equation. Let's use zinc OH2 plus ACl. Let's use ACl. Let's use ACl in this regard. Okay, let's have a very clear view so that we have a, let's use zinc OH2 plus ACl. So to give this, so when you have this zinc hydroxide reacting with ACl, you can see that here we have two OH here. 2 OH here. So if peradventure this will be replaced, this can only, one of these hydrogen is going to attach to this. One of these hydrogen is going to attach to this to give water molecule. So then we are left with one OH. So since this acid is insufficient, so this OH will be attached to the compound as well. We are going to have zinc OH chloride. So zinc hydroxide chloride or zinc chloride hydroxide. So this is formed at the end, plus one of these hydrogen is attached to this OH to give the water molecule. So in multiple choice question, whenever you see an OH group in a given compound of neutralization, this kind of salt is known as what? Basic salt. Basic salt. But when we have excess acid, this kind of reaction will go into completion to give zinc chloride. So let's use a very good example. When we have zinc OH2 plus ACl, this is going to give us zinc. Since we have enough acid, it's going to give us zinc chloride plus water as well. So in this aspect, since we have excess ACl needed to complete this neutralization reaction, is going to give us a very simple, a very normal salt known as zinc chloride plus water. But when the acid needed in the reaction is insufficient, it gives birth to what is known as basic salt. A basic salt contains this OH family. Whenever you see it in multiple choice question, any salt that contains this OH family is known as basic salt in this regard. So this will take us to the fourth types of salt. 4 types of salt. We'll talk about the double salt. Double salt. So double salt are those salts that ionizes in solution to give 3 ions. To give 3 ions. And these 3 ions are usually 2 positive. They have 2 positive and 1 negative. So we can identify a double salt by using this analogy. So let's use a very good example. The formation of ammonium 2 ion 2 SO4 hexahydrate. So what is the formation of this now? We can use ammonium SO4. We are going to use this will give us N4 to Fe SO4. So in this now, we're going to add 7 mole of water. 7 mole of water will give us deca 6H water plus H2O. So when you have this kind of reaction, if you should check this now, if you check this double salt, as I've explained before now, a double salt that is formed, we said a double salt is a salt that ionizes or dissolves in water to give 3 ions. Usually we have 2 positive and 1 negative. You check that we have this positive to one of the positive is here, one of the positive is here is negative. So this is a simple way in which you can identify double salt in multiple choice questions. So whenever you see a double salt contains 2 positive ions and a negative ions. That makes it a double salt. So we'll move to the next step. We'll talk about what are complex salt. So complex salt is the mixing together of 2 simple salts to form the mixing of 2 simple salts to form bigger ions. I use bigger ions to form complexes. So these big ions is known as complexes. When we mix 2 mixing of 2 simple salt to form a bigger ions known as what? Complexes. This big ion is known as what? Complexes. It's known as complexes. So this complex is a very good example. Let's use copper 2. Let's use copper 2 sulfate and ammonium hydroxide. So in this now, this is a simple salt. This is a simple salt. If we should mix these 2 simple salt, we said one of the less soluble salt will crystallize. So in this aspect, these 2 salt will give what is known as tetraamine. We give us tetraamine, copper tetraamine. So a simple way for us to know a complex salt, a complex is to know complexes. I mean, a complex have a central atom, usually positive, so it is bonded by substituent. So in this case, let's use a tetraamine to analyze this. Tetraamine. So in this now, we say complexes contain a central atom. The central atom here in this regard is copper. So this substituent that is bonded to these central atoms, in chemistry, it is known as ligands. So in this aspect of complexes is very important in inorganic and organic chemistry. So, and in most of them are used medically. And one of the characteristics of complexes is that the compound that is formed after mixing 2 simple salts, this compound have a different characteristics from the parent characteristics. So the characteristics of copper 2 sulfate and ammonium hydroxide, these characteristics of this copper amine, tetraamine, is different from this parent ions. So this will take us to the end of this class. So we are going to go through some. Let me give you some take home. So a very good example, let's use which of the following is an example of acidic salt. A, sodium chloride. 2, magnesium chloride. 3, we have sodium hydrogen tricarbonate. Okay, let's use B, C, D. Let's have sodium hydrogen SO4. So this is the end of the lesson. Please do wait to subscribe to this channel, and as well, if you have any comment on this aspect of this topic, please do wait to make use of the comment section. And if this is your first time of coming across my videos, please do wait to share and like. Thank you for watching.